All right, so people get really angry in my comment section all the time, say I'm terrible, and my move is to sincerely invite them to an Instagram live to have a conversation so that they can reveal what they don't like about me and I can try to explain myself. I think that's really, really important. So what I'm going to be doing is modeling that best I can. There we go. Is modeling that best I can with someone who goes in my comment sections and says, has called me all kinds of names, says I'm terrible, says I shouldn't be around children, all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping to, what if I like me? I think that what this is not about hating on me. I think what it is modeling how do you deal with people that disagree with you very strongly. I talk a lot about the 3 pillars that I've come up with, which are intellectual humility, genuine curiosity, and grace. Let me see if the gentleman who I'm meeting is in here yet. I don't see him yet. So intellectual humility is a tough one, but the idea of intellectual humility is you don't know everything. Like, you have a lot to learn. We know what it is to be humble. To be humbled. You go and play basketball against LeBron, you'll be humbled. I do jujitsu. I do jujitsu against Gordon Ryan or most people. I get humbled, Intellectual humility is on the intellectual level. When you're talking about ideas, when you're talking about, data, when you're talking about facts, when you're talking about, understanding different concepts. It could be in philosophy. It could be in hard sciences. It could be really anything. You don't know everything, It's really cool when you look at the quotes of Socrates or Einstein and these people that are widely recognized as the smartest of us, and they have so many well-known quotes that they are very, very ignorant, and I think that that's just so rewarding to hear that these people who are so smart are very ignorant about a lot of things, and I think that's really, really important. Intellectual humility, genuine curiosity is the second one. Genuine curiosity is this idea that people do this all the time. What they say is how could you vote for Trump? Or how could you possibly vote for Biden, even, this guy with dementia, blah, 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 blah. You're actually confused. You are actually confused. And you're framing it in a rhetorical question because it's so absurd that someone could think this way that you make it a statement. It's a rhetorical question. It's a statement, not actually asking the question. But you will come out better if you actually just ask the question and you frame it as a sincere thing. And the more knowledgeable you get, the better your questions can be. So you're curious, you get more and more and more curious as you get better and better information. And then your questions will tend to back people into a situation that reveals their ignorance about the thing that they're very passionate about. And that tends to be a thing as well. So let me see. I don't see the guy here. So that's the second one. The third one is grace. Grace is I think it's just such a beautiful concept. It's not getting the treatment that you deserve. Actually, you know what? Maybe that's more mercy. Mercy is not getting the treatment that you deserve. You deserve this, but I will show you mercy. Grace is probably more like getting the treatment that you don't deserve. That's better. Grace is you should be embarrassed. You should be knocked down. You should be, put in your place for this. But I'm not going to do that to you. I think that's grace. Where mercy would be something like, you wronged me and I'm not going to turn you in, or I'm not going to wrong you back or something, so I'm going to show you mercy. But grace is, you deserve to be, put in your place for what you said or what you think or what you've done. And I'm making sense too. No. And I'm going to I'm going to treat you in a way that you probably don't deserve. You know, you've been acting all these terrible ways, but I am going to show you grace. I'm going to treat you in a way that you probably don't deserve, but I'm going to do it because I believe in the concept of grace. And I think with curiosity, humility, curiosity, and grace, with those three, you can get further than you would without those things. You would get further. You might still have, you know, what I'm hoping to model here, this guy shows up, is this element of someone being really terrible to you, and you just lean into those three. You lean into recognizing that they might actually have a point. They might. Asking the right questions about what you are potentially missing. And then, even though they were terrible to you, even though they were mean and said terrible things or threatened you or whatever it is, and I get a lot of that, showing them grace. You don't treat them the way that they deserve to be treated, perhaps. Something along those lines. You know, you don't treat them that way. You treat them in a way that they don't deserve. On the positive side. You know, not saying, you know, a little old lady who's really sweet to you and you know, hit her. You know, that's giving people the treatment that they don't deserve as well. But I'm saying on the positive side, you know, someone who's been really, really terrible and treating them in a positive way. I think it's a beautiful concept. It really is. I don't know if you have friends that are named like Grace. It's kind of like an old lady name, but I think it's a really cute name too, like Gracie or something. But I love the concept of grace. I really do. I don't know if this guy's going to show up. Darn it. I was really excited to, because it's rare. It's rare. Oh, here, I think we got him. It's rare. You know, there's so often that when I invite people to come, you know, who say that I'm terrible and call me all kinds of names and stuff. It's so rare that they are willing to have a conversation, but I think he's in here. Let me see if I can get him. Yes, here we go. Here. Brian, hello.
Hey Will, how you doing?
I'm all right. I was just saying, I really appreciate your willingness to come on and talk, because you obviously don't, you know, take a lot of issues with what I'm doing, and I think that it's important to model this kind of discourse. So, um, I guess just like first off, like you know, we can just get right into it. We don't have to go into like personal stuff or anything like that, like, you know, who you are or anything like that. But if you want to share that, you can. But other than that, we can just get right into like I'll just give you the floor. Like, you know, your biggest issues with me, because you know you do a lot of like personal attacks about how I shouldn't be around kids, or I'm a simpleton, or I'm an idiot, and all this kind of stuff. And I think that that's fine. I just want to try and let's get to the reasons why you think that stuff.
Well, I mean, I just think that you present yourself like you're this very evolved critical thinker,
Okay.
and in my opinion, you seem like a narcissist who doesn't really have great ideas.
Mm.
And I don't know how you got this position, but you know, I think back to my time in high school, and one of my favorite teachers had your job, and it just makes me very sad. So, I mean, what you suggested we talk about was to pick a topic.
Or a
Um,
couple
I'm,
topics, yeah.
yeah, I'm happy to take any topic you have. There's literally like no post you make that's not incredibly frustrating to me.
Yeah,
And and and
I pick up on that.
like you, you know, I'm interested in the best possible information. I just think the way you present everything is not at all unbiased. It doesn't make people think. It very much gives your opinion. I have no idea what my high school teacher thought about anything,
Hmm.
but he really got us all thinking. And so I'm kind of here out of respect for him. You're in a tradition of people, and I just think you need to do a better job. You're obviously very committed. You're very passionate. You're very interested in helping people. I don't know. I mean, can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah, I mean, like where my kids go to school, no, but yeah,
What's that?
we're just making a joke. If it's like where my kids go to school or something, then no.
No,
But
no, no,
yes,
no, no, not like
I'm
that.
just
Uh,
joking. Yes.
No, a personal question. Have you
Yeah.
personally struggled with addiction?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you seem like an addict to me, and addicts are very often very passionate and very obsessive compulsive, but I just get a lot of narcissism. So I would like you to do better, because if you're now going private, you're going to have no reins at all on what you're doing. And I just worry. I worry for the kids, because you seem very passionate to do this,
Mhm.
but you don't resemble the teacher that I had in high school at all. And I went to a public high school in Columbus, Ohio, and you're here in LA, so let's pick a topic, and I'll try to explain in rational terms what I mean. I don't think you're a terrible person. I just don't think you're doing what you think you're doing.
Okay, well that's I mean self-awareness is really important to me, so I would like that. So clarity about addiction. When I was 16, I started smoking cigarettes. I quit when I was 18, but it was difficult for me to quit. I've had a lot of medical stuff in my past, and back in like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, they gave me a lot of pain pills, and I realized I was taking more than I should, so I stopped that, and that was kind of difficult to quit. I've also gone off of sugar for 6 months, no sugar at all. And that was really difficult to quit. I wouldn't say I'm an addict. I'm not in like a 12-step program or anything like that. I've
Right, right.
never been like a drug addict, but I recognize that I have those tendencies. I think most people do. Um, but I mean, so when you say that I'm a narcissist, what like specifically comes across that way that I, frame things just in how it can kind of serve me and,
Well, again,
and things
I
along
mean,
those lines.
I don't. I guess you're asking the question, so I'll respect you with an answer. But I'm not here to give you my armchair, therapy. I just,
But you
when
understand
I
why I would
look in
ask
your
that
when
question? Okay.
when I look in your eyes,
Yeah.
I read people pretty well through their eyes. I'm 57. I've been alive for a while. I've been through a lot of stages of life. I've done a lot of therapy. I've been around a lot of people who have different skill sets, and so I see this intensity in you that is very much like a addictive compulsive tendency.
Okay.
And that kind of tendency isn't actually prone to critical thinking. That kind of tendency is prone to taking one piece of information and running with it. So that's my thing. But what was your question? Sorry, I didn't want to avoid your question.
Just
What was your
well, no,
question?
you made a statement that I appear to be a narcissist to you. So I was wondering, like, what is that based on? Like, what do you have like a specific example of the way that I
Well,
am
yeah, I mean,
that
some
like
look, so,
it's because it's just kind of vague. It was kind of broad. So I'm trying to
sure,
get more pinpoint. Yeah.
right. Teaching is a service job. So the
Mhm.
question with teaching is, on a scale of service to personal ego, where do people fall? So when I look at you, I look at someone who really enjoys the attention of being a teacher more than someone who is acting of service. That's my baseline criticism. And when I look at the things that you're saying, I think, well, there's like 100 ways to frame that
Mhm.
that would have been less about you and more about the thing you're trying to teach. Like literally every topic, and even, I mean, I don't want to guide the conversation.
Yeah.
It's your IG live, but like even this notion of like I'm going to vote for RFK Jr.
Mm.
like that that's completely selfish. It's
Okay.
totally selfish. Your job to teach students is to teach them what voting is about.
Mhm.
If you think that that's a good idea, that means you've been suckered into the notion since Kennedy, the original Kennedy, since we've had television. People have been sold in this country the idea that voting is in their self-interest. So vote for me because I'm going to give you this cookie, right? And then people get into power. They can't give the cookie. Why? Because once they're in power, they're not the king. They have to have a team of people who agrees, right? There has to be a majority of people. So people run for office on the idea of here's the cookies I'm going to give you.
Mhm.
It's consumerism. It's appealing to the selfishness of individuals. Then when they get into office, they can't give those things. And then what happens is the consumer thinks, oh, those fucking, pardon my language, hypocrites in DC, they don't do what they say they're going to do.
Mhm.
And that leads to cynicism in the public. Like they didn't give me the cookies they promised. Well, this whole thing is where you should be teaching, which is when those people are offering those cookies, they can't give those things. And so what we're voting for shouldn't be based on a consumerist mindset of like, I agree with this person. I think this person will benefit me, my pocketbook, blah, blah, blah. That's not what voting is, folks. Voting is about who has the levers of power. And when we are looking at an election, let's say Biden and Trump, only Biden or Trump is going to be president. That's an objective fact. So if you want to do critical thinking, the next president is going to be, barring the death of someone, Joe Biden or Donald Trump. So when we go to vote as citizens,
Mhm.
we have two options. We can be powerful, which is vote for one of those people, or we can be powerless and narcissistic, which is, oh, I'm going to vote for RFK Jr. in this whole speech that you made because I think he's interesting or whatever. That's total narcissism. RFK Jr., no matter what you think about him, it could be Ross Perot, it could be, it could be any of the third party candidates of my lifetime. And they've all screwed things up, but that's a different argument. If you put your vote, your potential power, into someone who's not one of the two people running, you're actually taking yourself out of the process. There's no such thing as a protest vote. That is a narcissistic thing to do. It has no effect on the election, except that you're giving up your ability to affect the election. And you're making yourself feel good. It's like, I don't like Biden. I don't like Trump. I don't like any of these people. I don't like this candy. I don't like that candy. I like this other candy. It's fucking selfish.
Okay.
And if you don't, and if you don't see that Donald Trump is a clear and present danger, not just to our democracy, but to the world, if you don't see that, that's a whole other discussion. That's a whole other topic, right?
Mm.
But I'm just saying the notion of voting for someone who has zero chance of getting 27 electoral votes, never mind 270, that's just not a responsible move. And that kind of thinking comes from not understanding elections because it comes from this television era since the original Kennedy, where people have been selling the idea of, I'm going to give you these cookies, which they can't do. So, again, as a civics teacher, I would like you to be teaching that, the bigger picture, not like, oh, I like this guy and I don't like these two old guys and I don't really agree with them. And like, come on, come on.
Okay, so just the context of that was I posted something to show the negatives of Biden and Trump, and a lot of people were asking, well, who are you going to vote for? Who are you going to vote for? Stuff like that. So I shared it on here with a lot of caveats about different issues. But you have an opinion that there's no such thing as a protest vote, or
No, it's
that's an
no, no,
opinion.
no, no, no. It's not an opinion.
Okay.
It's not an opinion. It's like alternative facts, right? The notion of alternative facts, which was invented by Kellyanne Conway, those aren't facts. So that's a manipulative phrase. Alternative facts are lies used by Trump. Okay, they're not facts. It's not my opinion. It's that if you vote for someone who doesn't have a chance of winning, you are making yourself powerless. That is a fact. And you are taking yourself out of the equation. You're not part of the decision making process. You might as well sit home. You might as well be dead. It doesn't matter
Okay.
if you vote for people who aren't going to win. It's making yourself powerless. And as a
Okay.
civics teacher, that's the last fucking thing you should do.
Okay. So just questions about alternative facts. Saying that COVID started in a lab was labeled an alternative fact. Saying that there are negative elements of the vaccine was labeled an alternative fact,
No,
which
that's
turned
not.
out
No,
to be
no,
true.
no.
They were labeled alternative
Well,
facts.
do you want
So
to talk about the
how do you
vaccine?
round
Is
that?
that where you want to go? Because I feel like the addict just spiraled into a new category. I,
Um,
do you want to do the vaccine?
no, I'm asking you. It's not. I'm looking for the big pattern here. If you say alternative facts aren't a thing, how do we reconcile that statement of yours with the reality that things were labeled alternative facts that turned out to be true? So it's not about the vaccine, Brian. It's really not. It's about the concept that you make these statements, and then what happens when you make this statement to be. This is the reality. It's not my opinion. This is the way it is. And then I present you with alternative information that counters that. But then what do you do in that situation? I'm genuinely curious.
Oh,
Not trying to trap you. I'm actually
no.
curious.
What's the question? You think alternative facts is a good term? You like that term?
No, I don't like the term. I don't use it. You did.
Okay.
But
Well,
the
okay.
people that
Well,
do use it say that that's just made up. And things that got labeled as false have now been widely recognized as potentially true or true. So how
of
do we
course.
know what is true or
Okay.
not?
Well, how do we know what is true is a great question. It's a great question. Why don't
Okay.
we do that? Let's do the bigger question.
Okay. But do
So,
you understand what you used the term alternative fact, and I had to present this that there's many examples of things that were labeled alternative facts that have turned out to be true.
sure, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with this.
Yeah.
Anyone who oversimplifies anything is a low IQ thinker. It's not critical thinking. Nuance is the key to critical thinking. Nuance is the key to intelligence. So if someone says, this is absolutely true in a dogmatic and rigid way, it's probably not.
Like
Okay.
Trump is an existential threat.
No, Trump has himself stated that he is an existential threat. He's said, my intention is to put a shitload of power in the executive, to go after my enemies. All of his whole life. I mean, he loves he loves Hitler. He loves Nixon. He loves authoritarians. He loves Kim
Right.
Jong Un. He loves Putin. His thing is not democratic. Trump is not a democratic thinker. His thing is retribution in his own books, in his own words. He's got a group of hundreds of people right now who are looking to overrun the executive, to increase the power of the executive, to take the balance of power out. Trump himself, it's not a conspiracy, has said in his own words that he's anti-democratic. That's not an opinion. That's his own plan, his own words, and his own life. If you look at his own life, he's an anti-democratic individual. He's an
Okay.
authoritarian individual. So, like, this is why the people that used to work for him, who are all Republicans, who are all like, no, he's a danger to society. Don't listen to me. Listen to the people who are Republicans who worked for him in the White House. They're like, this guy's a danger to society. So no, that's not it shouldn't be a difficult topic for people to understand when the man is saying the things he said for 40 years and doing the things he's done, that he is a danger to democracy. He doesn't value balance of power. He doesn't value democracy. He sees it as a place for ultimate personal power. He can get himself out of jail. He can make money. He's always cash poor. He's never been a billionaire. The guy's a five-time
Yeah.
failure. He just needs the money and the power. That's his thing. Like Stormy Daniels. He's like, fuck me and maybe I'll put you on a TV show. That's his whole life in a nutshell, right? So if we don't look at that person and see him as a threat to democracy, we're not paying attention. It's his own
Uh,
words. It's not me saying it. It's him saying it. You just have to see his words and his actions,
uh,
both.
you said that he admires and he likes Hitler.
Yeah,
That's a tough statement. I mean,
it's not. No, it's
has
not tough to say. He's been quoting Mein Kampf. He's been quoting in his speeches in recent months, and people who know him have said he's got the book lying around. He's actually quoting it. Words like vermin and all the different things he said in his statements. These are straight out of Mein Kampf. He admires Putin. Listen, when he was in Helsinki, he was president. He was like, I believe Putin, not the FBI. Right?
um
When he says Kim Jong Un is a nice guy and we're good friends, he's the most insecure man, probably even more so than someone like Kanye West, who I feel very sorry for. Like these people are
yeah.
supremely insecure individuals who want to buddy up to power because it makes them feel better. Trump is a profoundly insecure person, so of course he loves authoritarians. They answer to no one. They get to do whatever they want. They get retribution whenever someone wrongs them. In Trump's own words, in his own words, he says, if somebody fucks me, I go after them double. So
Mhm.
that is not a democratic thinker. That is an authoritarian thinker. It's a objective truth. If you don't want to see it, I don't know why you wouldn't, but it's there
um
to be seen.
well, if you have questions for me about why I don't see it as the same as you can ask.
Okay,
um
why do you
yeah.
think Trump is not an authoritarian?
I think because when COVID hit, he did shut down some things, but he did not put. I think that's a great opportunity. If you look throughout history, there's a lot of opportunities when a crisis comes up. Going back to Caesar and others, like when a crisis comes up, it's your chance. It's your chance to jump and do Patriot Act stuff. George Bush is like, as soon as these buildings go down, I can jump on and grow executive power. And there were four
That, but
4 years where Trump was in
but
power
that's
where he
not what
could have.
happened with George Bush, though. That's not what happened.
Okay. Um,
But
but
we can do that, but that wasn't about executive power.
the Patriot Act.
That that was about the Project for a New American Century, which existed since George Sr. Attacked Kuwait. So there was a think tank on K Street, the PNAC, Project for New American Century, wanted to
Mhm.
take out Saddam. Okay, they didn't do it. Bush himself wanted to outdo his father because there's a 200-year tradition of in the Bush family, the men in the Bush family outdo
For
the father. That's how they
sure.
progress.
I agree with that, going to Iraq and stuff like that. But my point is that when 9/11 happened, it was an opportunity to jump in and grow power. And that's the opportunity that I believe that they took. And I think that when COVID happened, there was a wonderful opportunity. Everyone was scared, especially go back to March of 2020. Everyone was scared. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And Trump tended to lean more into letting states decide things. So Florida could do Florida, Texas could do Texas, and California, where I am, could do California.
Okay,
So I think that that's an
you're gonna take this one thing versus 100 pieces of evidence to the contrary. This is
no,
what you do. This is what you do. This is confirmation bias, my friend. So
Brian.
let me explain explain an alternative way of looking at why he did that.
I
Trump.
have to say, you asked me. You asked me, and I gave you an answer. I can give you many, many more, but you asked me, and
Okay,
I gave
give
you
me
an answer.
but the fact that your brain has manipulated that around to think that that was not him exercising his power. Let me show you. Let's take your one answer. Let's show why that was him exercising his power. What Trump wants is to be liked, enough to be voted, enough to have power. His thing is popularity. He doesn't actually give a fuck about the people who vote for him. He gives a fuck about the people who have money. Like the meetings he's had recently, because he's not getting good income for his campaign. He literally said in the last few days to the oil companies, give me $1 billion and I'll put you on stage and I'll give you whatever low taxes you want. If if someone is running for president and they are bribing, they are literally bribing the entire country. They're saying, hey, I'll do more low taxes. What Republicans have done forever, every time hurting the economy, every time a short-term bump and a long-term debt.
Okay.
Every time in over 70 years, Democrats have been better for the economy every time over 70 years. Okay.
Okay.
Every time a Republican comes in, they lower taxes since Reagan. This is the
Okay.
crucial issue of our time. And he's actually saying it out loud like, hey, give me some money short term because I'm cash poor always. Give me some money for my campaign and for my legal bills and I will give you more of what you want. He's literally using the presidency this week, actually in the last 2 days, to
Mhm.
bribe it out to the highest bidder.
Okay.
Now, to
Um.
me, that's a very clear indication of where he's at. To you, the COVID thing means something. To me, it means nothing. He just wanted to be popular like he always does. He doesn't want to
Okay.
piss people off. You know,
Sure.
he
And being
understands
an
that the
authoritarian
abortion.
might piss people off. Yeah. So that would be another example. He doesn't want to piss. I agree with you. He wants to be liked. I don't think he's a racist, sexist, homophobe. I think that if there's a trans Muslim person that's wearing a MAGA hat and says I love Trump, I think he'd be like, oh, this is my person. That's my opinion. So
Well,
I think that this is
he would for the sake of that person.
sure, but
But that's not what he really would think.
okay. But going back to authoritarian, people, especially conservatives, do not want authoritarianism. So wouldn't that be a good way to hinder, even if he has authoritarian motives inside of him, which I think most people that want to, I think Kamala Harris does as well. Okay, I think she has a record to show that kind of stuff. But if she knows
I think
that
that's
she doesn't want, Brian, may I speak just
profoundly
like get out?
ridiculous.
Brian, may I speak just like get out like one or two
Oh yeah,
sentences
go
before you
ahead.
talk? Okay,
Sure.
thank you. Um, if he is so concerned about being liked and being a populist, which I agree, I think that is a thing. I think that he is, a narcissist, a grandiose narcissist, as opposed to like a covert narcissist or something like that. I think that he is. I think that being authoritarian, taking strong authoritarian movements. I think when he banned bump stocks, it was not very popular among a lot of his people, but he did it, and you could say that was an authoritarian move that he shouldn't have banned bump stocks. So maybe that's a good example of him being authoritarian. But I think that he, in general, is put in check quite a bit by, even if he wants to be authoritarian, as I said, I think Kamala Harris does too, or people like that. I think that he is put in check by something along those lines. May I ask you a question? I want to ask you a question. What's something
No,
you seem
let me
very
answer because
confident in
that was
your?
such bullshit, and I let
Okay,
you finish.
okay,
So the
thank you.
are you familiar with the Lincoln
Yep.
Project? Okay.
Yes.
So those are the reasonable Republicans who all are like, this guy is a danger to society, and they post every day about it. And if you wanted to really learn, you would spend less time posting about how objective you are and see what actual Republicans say. Then, secondly, are you familiar with what Trump is doing now with his Project 47 or 45 or whatever it is? There are hundreds of people planning his administration as we speak. Okay. This is not a conspiracy theory from crazy liberals.
Okay.
Okay. I'm from Ohio. I'm from a purple state.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a Californian at heart. I'm a moderate at heart.
Okay.
Okay. I don't speak in hyperbole. He's got hundreds of people who are trying to do what he couldn't do last time. So yes, he was kept in check last time by General Kelly and by all these people. And all those people say, this guy is a danger to the country. Everybody, everybody there, except maybe Kellyanne Conway and Steve Bannon, who, by the way, is going to jail today. So,
Okay.
you know, the fact that you don't think that he could do worse in a second term means you're not paying
But
attention. He's got
I
people.
never said that.
Well, he's
But
got
I never said
people.
I
He's
never
got
said that he.
people. You said keep in check. You used the expression somebody would keep him in check. No, 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 no. They're going to work their way around that. Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller. Do you think Stephen Miller is in check? Do you think he's not a raging white supremacist? Come on. His whole life is white supremacy. So these people are getting more of their buddies together so they can game the legal system, find every loophole they can find to exploit executive power. That's what they are planning. That's not my opinion. They're doing it. It's a fact.
Okay. So my question for you is what is something recently, like let's say in the last 6 months, that you were this confident about? You were very confident that this is true. We say it's not a fact, it's a fact, it's not my opinion, that you changed your mind on. What's like I guess in the world of like politics or the culture wars, what's something that you were presented with new information or a new perspective and you changed your mind on recently?
I change my mind every day
Yeah.
based on getting new and better information.
Cool. Can you give me an
But
example?
well, I don't make a giant 180 because I'm not a fucking idiot. I don't make a giant 180 because I didn't make a stupid assumption in the first place. I'm just tweaking the model.
That's fine, but
I've
can you
been
give me an example of how you tweaked the model to go away from what your stance was?
no, it's a gotcha
It's
question. I don't have to go
it's not
away.
a gotcha question, sir.
Let me
It's
speak
not.
slowly for your brain. I don't have to make a
No.
giant 180, Will, because I'm not in the weeds.
Okay.
In other words, I'm tweaking all the time by gathering information from different places and assessing. I'm not having to go a 180. I'm not like, oh, I thought the sky was green. It's actually blue. Oh my God. That doesn't happen. It's a constant process based on, I don't know, critical thinking for, I don't know, decades, because
Mhm.
I don't know. I went to some schools that helped me to think, and I'm blessed with the ability to be objective. You know, I don't have a horse in the race. I'm self-employed for decades. I'm not part of the education system. I'm not part of the corporate system. I'm not part of any economic system. So my mind does not belong to anyone. And that's an unusual thing in this country. Most people have an economic interest in what comes out of their mouth. You included. You have an economic interest in what comes out of your mouth. I do not. Now, I might make more money if I kept my mouth shut. I might piss off a few people. But as a citizen, that's my responsibility to decide if I want to be more about the money or more about being what I consider a good citizen. And I take the civic responsibility seriously against my pocketbook, which I would say is a very minority opinion in this country. Most people don't have the balls to do that, and I do. So I I I worked by myself in the studio for decades. Okay, no, with the only accountability being what's the quality of my work and my relationship to clients. So politically, socially, all that, I can think whatever I want to think. I can observe whatever I want to observe. I'm not accountable to anyone except myself on what's really going on. And so I tweak the model constantly.
I hear you. You are very certain of yourself in your opinions and things like that. And when I asked for one, it wasn't a gotcha question. It's hard for me based on this little interaction, and there's people watching, so I don't. Maybe I'm off based on this, but I don't think I am. That you seem to have a lot of pride over knowing, being smarter than me for sure, and knowing a
I
lot of things that most
No,
people
no,
don't
I
know.
don't.
So
I don't
I
have
was
any pride,
asking.
Will. No pride. Again, you're projecting. You're projecting. There's
Okay,
no,
well,
there's no
no, I
pride.
was actually going by what people were saying in the comment section. It
Oh,
wasn't
oh,
me.
okay.
So maybe
Let's.
we're all narcissists except for you. I don't think that's the case
No,
though. If that's what that
I,
wouldn't be accurate.
I didn't say that. I
Yeah, I was
didn't say that.
going after someone here. Right. And I don't want to attribute something to you that you didn't actually
No, I
say.
didn't
But it
say
wasn't me
that.
that said it. It was someone in the comment section that seemed to ring true. So it wasn't a gotcha question.
No,
When you
no.
say
Look,
you would
look.
change your opinions all the time, I was just asking for an
Okay,
example of that, but we don't have to go to that.
let's take a step back. Let's take a step back. 20 years ago, 20 years ago, uh, 60 Minutes, when it used to be important, had 10 people on who were like 24 years old, 25 years old, 22 years old. And they asked
Mhm.
these 10 people, what are your goals by the time you're 30? And like, I forget, 6, 7, 8 of them were raising their hand. They're going to make $1 million. $1 million.
Okay.
So 20 years ago, young people were interested in making money. They were living that American mindset, right?
Mhm.
What happened next? Well, we had the 07, 08 recession, near depression, which Obama brought in a bunch of ex-Republicans and centrists, and he pissed off a lot of liberals because he was overly centrist, and he saved the world from a depression. He did a great job there.
Okay.
Why did we have that? Because we had deregulation from Glass-Steagall. When did that happen? 1997.
Mhm.
What was Glass-Steagall? That was put in place at the Depression,
Right.
so we wouldn't have things like the derivatives market, which evolved from 97 to 2007. Okay? So young people coming up into life suddenly were hit with this massive economic problem. At the same time, there was a black president, and so for a lot of people, a black president was very, very good. Like for me, I was happy about that. For other people, it brought out the racism. So 2009, what happened was the FBI terror watch list was white nationalist racists. They went to the top. It wasn't Muslim. It wasn't any of that. It was white male Americans in 2009. So starting in 2004, young people were going to make money. Then we had this recession, almost a depression. We had Obama. We had a rise of the Tea Party, but also which led to DeSantis and people like Trump. And then we had a rise in racism, and and then out of that, then we had Trump, then we had Me Too, then we had BLM. And what is happening over the last 20 years? What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that young people have become interested, and I think it's a great thing, in social issues
Mhm. Okay.
for really the first time in my life. I've never seen anything like it. So in 2002, when Bush and Cheney were doing what they were doing, nobody paid attention like they would now. Now, suddenly, everybody's an expert. So the irony of what you're saying to me, or the irony of what someone is thinking, is that I've been following this stuff since the early 80s with the
Okay.
same critical thinking that I'm applying now. And what I see is that a whole bunch of new people have joined the party. And what happens when you first come into social activism or awareness of bigger picture stuff, bigger than yourself, bigger than your wallet? What happens when you first come in is that you think you know everything. Because let's say you're black female and you're like, oh my God, there's this systemic problem against women and black people, and I can now analyze it and critically explain it. Da, da. And that's great. That's all true. Yes, you did figure that out. Those are real things. That's great. It's good. But then what happens is you're like, I need this to be fixed now. And so then you have a group of 20 people in a circle, and they all have a thing that needs to be fixed now, and then they're firing squad at each other because what they want isn't happening right now. So that's the first step of awareness, right?
Okay.
I'm not in
Um,
the first step of awareness. I've been doing this a long time. So when people come in, they're gonna project. They're gonna say, "Oh, well, you're just doing this," because that's what they know.
okay. Yeah. So maybe your levels above as far as wisdom goes. That very well might be the
No, I'm just
case.
saying I've
But
got more practice. I've
there you
got more
go.
practice.
Okay. I mean, just rewording what I'm saying. I hear you.
I'm
Okay.
not
So, so
I'm not I'm not better than anyone else. I've just been doing this for a long time,
and
and with practice,
and other people haven't.
well, I'm talking specifically about younger people,
Okay. Um.
or if I'm talking about people who are tied to a corporate job where their money is tied to their opinion. Yeah, most people don't have the freedom to be able to think critically, which is what you're teaching, right? You're teaching critical thinking.
Mhm.
So what I'm saying to you is one of the things that gets in the way of critical thinking is being tied to your income.
Which you think my Instagram's tied to my income?
Well, of course, you're a teacher professionally. This is your job.
No. The just so you know, no. The Instagram that I've been running since 2018 has been at best no impact on my career, and more likely than that, it's been a tremendous hindrance. I can't get National Teachers of the Year on my podcast anymore. I've had big podcast guests drop out because of it.
but I don't make any money. I've never asked for any money from anyone that follows me on Instagram. And my school has gotten a lot of ugly letters and stuff like that sent to them. So by no means has this helped my
Well,
financial
no,
stability. By no
but
means
now,
for 6 years.
yeah, but no, though. That's a short-term view. You're now doing your own business, right? You
Now I
today
am
is your last day, and you're
yeah,
doing your own
right.
business.
So for 2 weeks now. So for about a week and a half now, I'm going to try and serve people beyond just the walls of my classroom. Yes.
I understand
So
that. So looking at it from a larger view,
so I was
this is
just
where
setting
you've been.
this up for 6 years.
Yeah, dude, life is long. Okay,
I understand.
you may not be able to see the overview, but the overview here is that you don't work with the school system traditionally, and what you've been doing is built on your internal compass, and your
Mhm.
internal compass has led you to what you're going to do next, and all of everything that you've done, just like everyone in life, is leading them hopefully to what is their best self and their purpose in life, right? So you're moving towards your
But
passion and your purpose, which is going to be outside of school. It's going to be an
sure.
independent thing called parallel docs or whatever
Mhm.
you're calling it.
Yes. So just so you know, though, that I don't have products. I don't do promotional code, buy this product, anything like that. Contribute to this. Give me money. Give me money. For 6 years, I did not do that. This actually cost me money. This cost me a lot of opportunities to do this thing. So I'm just challenging your hypothesis that I'm doing this for some sort of financial
Yeah,
gain.
but
Um, the,
I'm challenging that statement as being completely manipulative. You're choosing to be on social media.
Mhm.
That means you're self-promoting. Social media is self-promotion. That's what it is.
it's
It's
one thing it could be, but that's not what it is. That's one
it
element
is.
of
It's if you were busy doing your job, you wouldn't be on Instagram. Instagram
it. That's
is a PR platform 99% of the time. Yes,
okay, Brian.
occasionally somebody dies or somebody has a birthday or whatever.
I hear you.
Instagram is PR. You've been doing PR the whole time. It just didn't work well for you under the past structure of your job, but it's setting you up for the next job you're doing. This is 100% in your favor and towards your career. The fact that you deny that is part of my problem with you. You're like manipulative narcissism. You're like, oh no, I'm not doing this. Poor me. It's been bad for me. It's been bad for my career. Are you fucking kidding?
Okay. I don't think I'm playing victim on it. I'm just trying to correct what your statement is.
Well,
But
okay.
why do you think people get into teaching? Like high school teachers, like me, like a teacher like me. Why do you think that I got into it?
There's a million reasons. How could I possibly answer that for
In
everyone?
like let's do a grand thing. The average person who gets out of college from an education college and they go out, like what it would be like the most broad stroke. Like someone gets into engineering, they like building stuff, solving problems. Someone gets into music, they love artistry, and they love you're in like the music world. I see something like that. Like people go out there to perform because they want to create art that resonates with people and they want to express themselves and stuff like that. Why do you think, like, for a generalization, that people get into teaching?
Well, I don't like to generalize. That's not really a smart move. I would think that uh, I could only imagine it's on a scale between helping people and exercising their own will on younger minds.
Okay. Okay, sure. So
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 somewhere between service and somewhere between on the altruistic end, which I don't actually believe anyone is altruistic, but somewhere between a service mindset at the best case, and something more like indoctrination mindset.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and my goal is not to indoctrinate. I know you might disagree with that, but I get into teaching because I love it. I love searching for truth, finding truth. I love explaining my process of understanding things with people. I'm not the sage on the stage. I do not have all the answers by any stretch of the imagination, but my process seems to be effective for people. And I've been doing this for 20 years, so I have 20 years of students who tell me all the time. I mean, alumni from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that have helped shape them to think more, live life less on autopilot, to think more critically, to see the world more clearly, and things like that. So when I am told that by 2018, I was teaching since 2006, so it had been 12 years or something like that at the time. it was enough people telling me that for the same reason I'm building Paradox is because I want to scale it. It's not fair to hear this from the 25 or 30 kids per class, 100 kids per year. And I wanted to do that more and see if I could maybe serve others that would be interested. And I think the reason why my Instagram is successful is not because I'm pushing people how to think. There's actually a really diverse political landscape. I mean, probably just even watching this, 35 people watching this, there's going to be MAGA people, there's going to be anti-MAGA people, there's woke people, there's all over the place. There's a lot of people who are very critical of what I do. People are very supportive, and then those people switch because I take different perspectives from different places. So the reason I started this was just to keep doing what I do. I'm not the teacher that ever had a countdown. I can't wait for summer because what I love to do, I want to do it all the time. So I'm dedicated at my job, and then I come here and I just do more of the same. I understand that you don't like you
Well,
don't like Donald Trump. I get it.
I don't agree that you have, having observed your page, you have a right-leaning audience.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
and the fact,
it might lean that way. Sure, it
no,
might be like
oh, of
60-40,
course it does. You
but
use words like woke culture and shit like that. I
yes.
mean, obviously you've been
Well,
influenced by the pressures of the California education system, which has gotten under your skin, and I can understand that.
yeah.
I can
Would
relate to how that could
would
be
you say
challenging.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for recognizing that. That has been thing. And it's California, but it's really education as a whole has been taken over a bit by this. Would you say that like John McWhorter, the Columbia professor, is a right winger? Like not that's not really accurate. And he wrote
I
a
don't
book called Weight Racism. So I
yeah,
don't know.
I don't know him, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
ignorant to
That's
that.
fine. That's
But
fine.
but 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 the education, can we talk a second about the education system?
If you think it'll be productive, then we can.
I
Sure.
think it will, because I have a story from there's a guy that lives in Palm Springs,
Okay.
and he wrote the why are you laughing? You have a little smart ass smirk. What's up with that?
Um, I'm trying to get to a better understanding. If you think that this story will help me better understand where you're coming from and you to better understand me, then it will. But we've gone down these tangents a bit, and I think that people are probably following this. Maybe not you because we're in it, but like I'm looking at what people are saying and things like that. I think that it tends to get away from the point of what we're trying to do here.
Okay, well, first of all, I think looking at what everyone is saying is not the way to have a conversation, but if that's what works for you, that's fine. What is it, the point that you're trying to make? Because what I thought you asked me to do here was to discuss a topic or two. So I haven't really seen us focus on that. So what is your focus? It's your show. What's your intention for this?
To try and just better understand where you're coming from and get concrete examples of what you think is so dangerous or insincere about my approach.
Okay, well, as I've said to you online, and I said to you here, I said it in the beginning. Maybe it wasn't clear. Uh, your so-called critical thinking. Now, I'm not in your actual class. So let me
Right.
clarify. So your actual class might be a fantastic and wonderful thing,
Okay.
and I have no experience with that. Therefore, I have no opinion. Okay, but what I see you do online is very manipulative language around supposedly being a critical thinker, and like the JFK Jr. thing. Like that's just like, are you kidding? You're going to tell us why you're going to vote for JFK Jr.?
So
It's
if someone,
pathetic. It's
so do you
pathetic.
think that that's a if someone is a supporter of JFK Jr., then they can't be a critical thinker?
I think if someone is teaching critical thinking surrounding politics and you're not aware of how that is an irresponsible act, that you're an irresponsible human being. Yes. Not
But
not someone else, you.
okay.
You personally.
So
If it
I can't have that opinion, but other people can because of my position. You're saying
okay, again,
I
your
shouldn't share that
language,
opinion. I shouldn't share that opinion.
your
I don't want to
your
misrepresent
your
your opinion.
language is manipulative in and of itself. I have never said you can't
Right.
have an opinion, Will.
That's why I corrected it.
Would you
Brian, I
stop
corrected it for
talking
you.
like you're a fucking 5-year-old child?
Okay.
I'm not here to scold you. I'm here to say I don't think you're doing what you think you're doing.
Okay.
I What I see you doing is a lot of narcissism for Will and not as much critical thinking for the kids as you think you're doing. That's my premise.
Okay. So I appreciate that. What hypothetically could change your mind on that? Like what could potentially what could I explain to you or what could I show you or what could you learn that would change your mind and
See, like
see me as a sincere critical
okay,
thinker?
I'll play your game. This guy hates RFK Jr. Someone being sincere. Like this crazy. Number one, I don't hate anyone. RFK Jr.'s own family is like, hey, this guy is a danger to society.
Mhm.
The Kennedys stick together even when one of them drowns a woman in a lake. The Kennedys stick together come hell or high water, except for RFK Jr., the guy who, by the way, argued 10 years ago, I had a worm in my brain, therefore my capacity to make income to pay my ex-wife is limited. Oh, but now I want to be president of the United States. Like, come on. Come on. So, you know, the the here's no this guy's lashing out. Like, who am I lashing out at? My
I think you're.
frustration is clearly with this simplistic thinking and ignoring facts. Like, if you're going to be critical thinking, we've got to look at the data. So you, as a teacher of civics or things pertaining to
Yeah.
politics, the, the fact that you would encourage anyone to vote third party is irresponsible.
Yeah, and as stated before, you don't believe that to be opinion. That's a fact.
Well, yes, it's a fact because a third party candidate in this country
Can't win.
historically doesn't get 2.7 electoral votes. They don't get 27 electoral votes. They're not going to get 270. So one of two
Right.
people is going to win the next election.
And someone with zero political background who's a reality show host can't become president. So, there are firsts. I'm with you that by definition, things that have never been done
No, 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 no,
before
no,
are
no, no, no. The
impossible. But
Republican, no, 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 no. Look, that's a manipulative bullshit thing. Trump was the Republican nominee. There was a Republican and a Democratic nominee. Hillary or Trump were going to win the last election. That's a
right.
fact.
But how
In this
Trump got
election,
there is what I'm pointing out.
but by the time he got there, then your point is moot. At that point, he's not a TV host. He's a Republican nominee. Okay,
Correct.
RFK Jr. is not going to be the Republican or the Democratic nominee. And we live in a polarizing polarity world where we're not an evolved world of highly conscious people. We're in up, down, right, left, me, you, black, white. We live in a polarized world because the general evolution of people is not at a place, and the country is down into these two parties. It's not going away anytime soon. And RFK
I-
Jr. is not the guy who's going to fix it. Do you think that RFK Jr. has any chance of being president?
yes.
You do.
Yes.
You think that in the next election,
hmm
RFK Jr. could be the president of the United States?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Are you
Okay.
curious why? I mean,
Oh,
yeah, I think that
yeah.
if Joe
Please.
Biden dies today, God forbid, or Donald Trump dies today, more specifically Donald Trump dies today, I think that it's absolutely possible. I think there would have to be something big like that happening,
Okay.
but I think that it is possible. Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay.
But uh, I fundamentally disagree with the idea of not voting or voting for a third party as a fact that it isn't necessarily an American thing, or it isn't something that we can do.
Well, no.
I understand you don't
Let's
like Trump.
let's
But
look at the examples. It's not that I don't like Will. I'm not a 5-year-old. Will you please try to talk to me like an adult? I don't like Trump. I don't like chocolate. I don't like candy. Grow the fuck up, dude.
for
Let's go back to third.
brevity.
Let's go back to third party. If we look
Yeah.
at Bush
Ho-
Cheney,
Hold on, Brian. You're so insulted. Can I ask you, like,
no,
what
you're
in a?
insulting. You're insulting.
Hold on. I've never called you a name. I've never cursed at you. I've never called you a name. I've never said that you're a bad person. I've never said that you're a dumb person. I never said that you were anything negative. So why do you feel insulted by me? I apologize. What did I say that was insulting to you?
Well, I know that you don't like Trump.
That's an insult
Can we have a
to
more?
you.
Okay.
Saying that you don't like Trump is an insult to you. You took that as an insult. I truly apologize if you took that. I mean, offense is completely subjective. So
I
if you were
took
offended by me saying that you don't like Trump, I truly apologize.
no.
But
I'm offended by the low IQ. I took 5 minutes to explain to you why I believe Trump is a danger to America.
mhm. I
And my
understand.
my position is not that I like or dislike Trump like a
Okay.
piece of fucking chocolate. My
Okay.
position is that Donald Trump having the power of the presidency a second time is a clear and present danger, not just to the American democracy as we know it, but to the world.
Under,
Do you
I
think
understand.
Trump for a second wouldn't be glad to press the button to blow up with a nuclear bomb all of Gaza to impress Israel and Kim Jong-un and Putin. The guy is
Right. I
he is
don't.
an authoritarian nutcase.
I hear you. I understand your opinion on that. So I'm sorry for brevity that I said you don't like him, and I'm sorry that hurt your feelings or offend you. Truly, I really am. That's not my intention.
Okay.
But I was just asking if when like why you're so insulting. If we're trying to understand one another, doesn't that get in the way of trying to better understand? Unless you have an is an agenda to prove that I'm bad, or is it to try and understand why I might not be bad?
Can you make that an actual question?
Yeah, is your goal in this conversation, is one of your goals in this conversation to prove that I'm bad or to try and understand why I might not be bad? Or neither of those two?
Neither. I don't believe again with like, are you six? I don't think there's good and bad people. I don't think you're a bad person. I never said you were a bad person. I don't
Okay.
even
Well,
think Trump is a bad person. I think
when
he's
you
a
say I'm manipulative and I'm a narcissist and I'm an idiot and I'm dumb and I'm dangerous and I shouldn't be around kids, I think that for brevity, you could probably say that would be the characteristics of someone who would not be good. So yes, maybe I have to dumb it down a little bit, maybe just for me. Okay, I'm not saying that I've never said that I'm a genius. I never said that I'm smart. Okay, but I think that just for brevity, I use that language just to because I think everyone kind of knows this is a public conversation. People kind of know what I'm getting at. Maybe you don't. Maybe it was too low for you, and you're up here. But either way, like
again,
that's
that's
it's just to
insulting.
try and get
It's
to
insulting,
the
Will.
core of what we're trying to get to.
That's an insulting statement.
That
It's,
one's insulting too.
yeah,
I'm not trying to insult you. I'm
okay.
not trying to insult you, Brian. I'm not. That's why I
But
don't call you
either
names.
I'm
That's why I'm not
here
saying
and you're
stuff.
up there. Like, it's snarky.
But
You
that's
put
what
in these
you have been
snarky
saying,
comments.
Brian. But that's what you have said. You
No,
have
look,
said
here's
I'm
what
a
I've said.
6-year old.
Will,
You said I'm a 6-year-old,
let's
and I need to grow up.
let's clarify.
Okay.
What I've said is, I don't think that you're teaching critical thinking the way you think you're teaching it.
Yes.
I see a lot of
Understand.
Will's personality,
Okay.
and I see a lot of online because I'm not in your class, so I don't know, your class could be different. But I
Yeah.
see like manipulative framing of things, and I see giving your opinion on things, which is not helping people to think critically. Do you think that giving your opinion on everything you say helps a student to think critically?
I don't give my opinion on everything I say, but when I do, yes, because when I do think it does help them because when I give my opinion with everything and put stuff out here, here's what I think. It's always it's always with a caveat of here's what I think now. I can evolve this, but here's what I think. You want to know what I think, and here's the reasons why, and I will evolve my thinking all the time to sharpen my ideas more and more and more. But I don't want to hide what I think because I
Sure.
don't think that's the best
Yeah,
way to
and I'm with you
yeah.
100%. I do the same thing.
All
So
right, see,
so
we found
what
common ground.
so what so
Yeah.
what so what makes you think that I'm not doing that? What makes you ask me a question like, well, what have you done to change your opinion on? Why
Mm.
don't you just assume that what you're calling critical thinking is what I'm doing at the same time?
'Cause I don't see you as someone who's maybe, and this might be wrong, so please correct me. Do you actively seek disconfirmation? Do you actively go down on a true effort to prove yourself wrong when you have an opinion?
Every day, all the
Okay,
time.
cool. So
Every
what have you
day,
found? Good.
every day, all
So
the time.
wonderful. So
The notion that, look,
good.
the
No, that's
notion
wonderful. So
of,
we can move forward from there.
okay,
May I
great.
just ask, what are 3 things that you think that Trump did well as president?
Oh, goodness. Um, 3 things that Trump did well.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think when the pandemic started, he didn't panic, but then he turned around and told people to inject bleach, and then he ended up taking
Okay.
the
So
drugs himself.
well, that's not one. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
no, no.
without those caviats,
No,
like 3 things that he did well.
I don't know if I can come up with 3 things.
Okay. So
I think,
that's a great point. So if you're a critical thinker,
no, but can I
sure.
finish?
Yes.
Okay, you're just looking to jump on this and teach. Just give me a fucking minute.
Okay.
Thinking about what Trump did well is not something I've been thinking about because number one, he hasn't been president for years, so I haven't thought about that. Number
Okay.
two, I'm not in the habit of proving to someone like you that I can come up with 3 great qualities about someone who I think is a danger to America. So I've been more thinking about what Trump's doing lately, what he plans to do in the future. That's where I've been thinking. I haven't been thinking, oh, what great stuff did he do in the past? This is one of your teacher gotcha questions, and then you're being snarky and laughing about it. So don't do that. That's not conducive of a good conversation, is it, Will?
Um,
Why don't you
no,
give me a minute to think about it?
yeah, I do you need more time?
Yeah, I was trying to think about
Sure,
it. That's the point.
of
Right.
course.
There's a lot of things we can all think about. So 3 things he did well. Let's see. Um, the way he first handled it. Yeah, he didn't freak out. Um, what else did he do well? I thought he was trying to do something good with the border. He had the intention to do good things with the border. Um, his focus on the wall wasn't good. I can't agree with that. The walls, you can go over or under the wall really easily. Um, so he tried to do good things with the border. He didn't freak out when the pandemic started. What else did he do well? He hired a number of intelligent, seasoned moderates that critics that his team would criticize as deep state, probably people like General Kelly, or the host of people that he had in the White House. He hired a number of competent people,
Okay.
and you know thank God he did. That's not what he plans to do next time.
Okay. Would you say like the better access to kidney dialysis treatment and stuff, that bill that got passed? That's a good one, right?
I
Um,
wasn't aware of that one. Oh,
right.
he let a couple people out of prison. He
The
let a
First
couple people out of
Step Act.
prison.
The First Step
A
Act. Yeah.
couple people he let out of jail. That was a good thing.
Hmm.
That was a good thing. But again, everything he does that's a good thing is also a manipulative thing, because he's
Well,
pandering to an audience.
well, that
It's
gets
not it's not like from the goodness of his heart. It's that
okay.
he was pandering to an audience. He was trying to get certain constituencies there. It wasn't like when you look at Biden, you can say, well, I disagree with his policies,
Mhm.
but I know who he is as a person. He has a moral center that's shifted over time. Yes, there was the crime bill, and he shifted over that. But that's going to happen if you're in politics for 50 years. It's someone who has a center that has changed over time. When you look at Trump, you have someone who doesn't have a center. You have a lifelong Democrat who flipped because he knows where the suckers are, and he said so himself. He's a con man. He knew where the marks lived. The marks lived on the low IQ part of the Republican Party, and those are the people he wants to put in power to do his authoritarian stuff. So everything that he did that I could say, well, that was a good idea. I can't help but see his deeper motive for it.
Are you
So
referencing that quote where he said, "If I would ever run for president, I'd run as a Republican because they're like the lower IQ." Because that
no, I mean
okay, 'cause that
he didn't actually say lower IQ. I mean, he said he said many things that. Well, I mean, look, he's a lifelong Democrat. He switched because victimization, a feeling of victimization that he carries, which is from his abuse of his parents, unfortunately. His victimization has a home in the victimization identity of Red County, America. And I know Red County, America. I grew up around that. I have
yeah.
relatives from there. So the victimization is there's a meeting of the minds between he's like the king of the victims. So that's where the victimization vote is for him.
Okay. Yeah, I think victimization works for both parties. Do that in different ways. They apply that and try and represent those people that feel like they've been wronged by society.
Oh,
And
now hold on. Okay, let's
we look
talk
through
about
that.
that. How
Um,
do black people in America feel that they've been wronged?
well, it depends. I wouldn't just say like black people, but I think like I was talking about political parties. I think that the Democratic Party
How
would probably
how
lean
how do
more
how
into
do
saying
women in America feel that they've been wronged?
again, it's not all women, Brian. It's some
Okay,
women
so
feel
so
this
who
kind of thing.
who does the Democratic Party appeal
Mar-
to?
Marginalized communities.
And how do they
Mar-
feel that they've been wronged?
Marginalized communities, according certain lines like race, gender, LGBTQ status, and stuff like that. but they don't recognize like the victimizing reality of like working class whites, for example, like West Virginia or something. So, I had someone on a podcast who was talking about they were from South Carolina, and he's like, I voted for Trump. I know he's a Yankee, but at least he wasn't saying I was bad. I'm a hard worker. I go home and I don't have a lot of money, and I'm being told that I'm like, I have all this privilege and blah 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 blah. So I like being recognized as not being evil, where he felt like the Democratic Party was kind of vilifying him just because of his gender and his skin color. So something along those
Right.
lines.
So
Um,
so just because someone thinks that, I'm asking you what you think. So you think Joe Biden, who's like lifelong blue collar supporter, you think he
well,
has no empathy for the West Virginia folks?
I think that he has more of an interest in his big corporate donors than he does the people of West Virginia. Yeah.
I see. So you think that liberal, you think that the corporate donors are more interested on people on the left than the right. Is that what you think?
No, I think they're both left and right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Um,
so why don't so
yeah.
why don't we talk about corporate donors? Why don't we talk about the real problems in the country, which isn't all of this kind of little nitpicky shit that you're getting into? There's
Um,
there's three there are three main problems in the country which we haven't addressed, which would actually solve most of this stuff. And I'd be interested in you thinking about those things to teach your students.
yeah. I mean, I talk about regulatory capture. A lot of the things that I talk about with corporate greed and corporate donors and Citizens United and stuff is not partisan at all. It's the stuff that's why a lot of the people that do actually follow my account are not hardcore partisans. They're not hardcore Democrats. They're not hardcore Republicans. They're these people that are very politically homeless and they're very like upset by the whole system. I think for a lot of them, Donald Trump represents an FU to the system. But when you say like
Right, but
he
that
did these things that
okay.
oh just one second please
Sure.
when you say he did these things that are good but he did them out of bad intentions, so therefore the underlying element of it is bad, then wouldn't that be what is considered like a Kafka trap? This idea of did you steal the diamond? No. Well, that's what someone who stole the diamond would say. Did you steal the diamond? Yes. Well, then you stole it. I mean, if even the good things that Donald Trump has done, you attribute to his intention as being a negative intention, then how could you ever possibly change or evolve your perspective on a person if you assume that every action, including good actions, if he goes out and he saves a little lady from getting hit by a truck, you might say, well, he only did that so he can put that on the front page of a newspaper and he can get votes. But then at what point will you be able to recognize if he does do something that is good? You don't know his heart. You don't know him personally. So all you can go by is what you see. When you assume negative intention of people, then aren't you just bound to see things through a negative light? And then you're going to be less likely to be for the sake of this argument, a critical thinker to evolve your understanding of him.
So I think you're missing the whole point here. That
Okay.
Donald Trump is not a new character to me. I've been observing him since the 80s. So Donald Trump has evolved in broad daylight for anyone to see. And in fact, there were like a number of psychiatrists, people who basically said, I think last time he ran, I'm not sure about the facts of this, but there were 50 or 100 of these professionals, and they were like, look, we really normally don't do this because we haven't seen this guy. It's kind of unethical to do this, but we have to say this person is a danger to society, right? So
Yep.
that and so I and many people have been watching Trump and observing what he says, what he does, what his books say, how much was a ghostwriter, how much was him
So,
talking to the ghostwriters. If you observe the man over the last 40 years, we do know his heart.
so,
This is not a secret.
so you would say, so I hear you. So you would say that the people who, um, what
The
do you
man
say to
is a
someone who's been,
raging narcissist
I
who is
hear
a
you.
danger to society.
I understand your perspective. I really think I do.
Well, it's
My
not my
question,
opinion.
well,
It's the opinion of anyone who's observed him over
okay.
40 years.
But what happens when you meet someone who has known him on a deeper level than you? There are probably people out there who know him deeper than you, who have read more, met him more, interacted with him more, studied him more than you, probably.
Oh, of
So
course.
what do you do if there is someone like that that arrives at a different conclusion than you do?
They don't exist. Look at David K.
Well,
Johnson, who's followed him for years. Look at his
but
biographer. Look at the man
if
who
I could present,
co-wrote The Art of the
right,
Deal. The Art of the Deal. The
if I could
people
present,
who've sat with him. Look,
if I could,
look
but if I could present you as someone that did, would that change your mind? If I
if
could
you
present you
can
as someone
present
who,
if you
yeah,
can
an
present
individual.
evidence of anything, it might always affect my mind. It's not going to change, but it will always affect. Your presumption in that question is that I'm a closed-minded person who just woke up on a Tuesday and thought they knew everything. That's the most
No,
ignorant assumption that you could make.
well, I didn't
It's an
make that assumption. I
well,
think that you did.
that's no, that belies your question. I've already answered you, Will. I said every day I'm tweaking the model
Mhm.
based on critical thinking. Every day I'm taking in new information.
Um,
Isn't that the goal? Isn't that your goal?
absolutely. And
Isn't that what you teach your students every day, to take in information and whatever they think, to be willing to tweak the model?
yes, but I wouldn't. I would always advise my students to not assume negative intent.
I'm not
I think that's. I think
assuming
that's.
negative intent. That would be a projection. That would be projection. Projection is not good. The comments section is full of projection. I'm watching the comments now.
Mhm.
Projection is never good. There's two psychological things that we all do that we really should watch out for: projection and transference. Projection is putting our own worst image on another party, and
Mhm.
transference is taking something that we're upset about and moving it on to another situation. Those two psychological traps are very much things that we should all watch out for. But
Mhm.
I watch out for those things, right? So critical thinking, the thing you teach, is to constantly take new information from all sources and upgrade the model.
Right. Someone like Scott Adams or someone like that, who's a pretty astute person. Okay, has different like there are. If you say they don't exist, I challenge that idea that people who are deeply understanding of the political process, people who know Donald Trump very well, that the only reason why someone and I don't mean to, if this is not what you're saying, then please correct me. But it seems like what you're saying is the only reason someone could arrive at a different conclusion than you is because they are ignorant and you are
No,
more informed.
no.
Okay. So
If
tell me
everyone
how I
had,
don't want to misrepresent you.
let's put it
Okay.
this way: if everyone had all of the best information, and if everyone had a clean vehicle in themselves, if they
Mhm.
were free of personal bias, okay, if everyone had both of those things, everyone would come to the same basic conclusions. If they had that, those are difficult to come by. But that's the goal, is to have all the information and to have your own personal bias out of the way. That's the nature of critical thinking. Get yourself out of the way. So for example, like we look at Western medicine. Let's just take a different example, not politics.
Okay.
Western medicine is very evolved.
Okay.
If any one doctor had all of the knowledge of all of Western medicine, if one person could hold all of that information, and if that one person then saw a patient, and if they were clear in themselves, they could probably fix pretty much anything. The problem is, in the system that we have, that information is segregated among specialties, and you have a general practitioner and he sends you to this person or that girl or this guy or whatever. And so we don't have that kind of cohesiveness of wisdom within Western medicine. So it's problematic, right?
Okay.
But the idea is that we all have A, the best possible version of the truth, and B, that we are in ourselves working hard to be clean in how we perceive the information and perceive the people in front of us. Like I looked at you and I said, that's a guy with a former addiction problem, because I see it in your eyes, because I have been doing this a long time. Or I listen to what your questions are, and when you ask a certain question and you say it's an objective question, I see the bias in the question, and that's what I call you out on. I'm like, that's not really a clean question, Will. That's a manipulative question. Or you
Okay.
say you're going to vote for RFK because you actually think he could win. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to insult you with that. I think that's a total fantasy that you're making yourself feel good. It's not going to happen. If Trump or Biden was to die, RFK is not going to become the president, in my opinion.
I
But you can believe
yeah.
whatever you want. But I'm saying, as a civics teacher, or as a whatever your title is, understanding the history of third parties is a big deal. The third
Mhm.
party candidate, which we skipped over at the 2020 election, Ralph Nader, led to George Bush and Dick Cheney being president. Now, you could also say it was Chief Justice Rehnquist who put his political stamp on the court case of Bush v. Gore. But what did that lead to? That third party candidate led to the longest war with the wrong people in American history, 1 million dead innocent people, and
Yeah. Not a
Patriot
fan of
Act
George
and
Bush. Yeah.
all the rest of it. That was
Yeah.
from a Democratic third party candidate who had, like, I forget, 60 or 40,000 or 20,000 votes in Florida.
Yeah.
And it was a 500 vote. It was a 500 vote election in Florida.
I hear you. Yeah.
So third,
534 votes. I know. I hear you. So
thank you. So
yeah,
third
I'm
party
with you.
candidates don't have a good history of helping.
100%. Yep. And I think that I understand. I do understand that. The I just disagree with some of the premise about that. That's not it's not part of your you're not being a patriot if you want to try and change the system that way. But that's somewhere we can
Well, you
disagree.
can
I just want to clear up when you say that I was a
look,
an addict. I just
the
want to clear up.
people who walk
No,
down Main Street with an AR-15 think they're being a patriot too.
there you go. Um,
But
yeah.
but
So,
they're but
but
they're
when you said
not. But the point is they're not. That's not encouraging civil discourse and all the things that you're trying to teach in your class. So you're trying to have it both ways. You're like, anything a person does makes them a patriot if they
well,
think they're being a patriot.
yeah, I
That's
absolutely
not
never
true.
said that. So,
Well, if you
so
think voting for RFK Jr. is making you a patriot, I disagree.
I know you do. I understand.
I think it makes you a bad teacher because you're not explaining the
Yeah,
situation.
you made that clear. I understand. The when I just want to clear up when you said you could tell I was an addict. Just for the people that came in later, I smoked cigarettes when I was 16 until I was about 18. It's probably the most addicted that I've been. And I quit cigarettes. Also, I quit sugar for a while, which is very addictive, very hard to quit sugar and stuff like that. So just so people don't come in and when you say like I could tell you're an addict, like I never like put a needle in my arm or anything along those lines. I never did like had like a cocaine habit or any like like I'm an addict. Like I smoke cigarettes. I drank a lot of coffee and stuff like that. I would say a lot of teachers that need their coffee to get going in the morning, they could be an addict as well. I guess just because it's been an hour and 15 minutes. What do you tend to line up across the board on left leaning political stances, or do you have conservative stances as well?
No, I'm a moderate, left of center moderate. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, which is a purple.
Cool.
It's a
So
purple city.
what are some areas that you would be?
I line up with the Constitution of the United States, not in some bring your AR to the sidewalk way, but in actually seeing the
Well,
promise of the country happen.
but you understand why someone believes that they should have an open carry like they do in Oregon and a bunch of other places in Pennsylvania where I grew up. Like you
Yeah,
could have
because
open carry for an AR, and you can
because they've
understand the
been
constitutionality of that,
well.
right?
No,
No,
no, no. Let's
no.
go back. They've been manipulated since the 70s by the NRA. So the Second Amendment has been interpreted very differently over the course of the history of the country. The modern interpretation of the Second Amendment is the result of a lobbying effort from the NRA since the early 70s, which resulted in court rulings in the Supreme Court in the last 10 years. And it's the most individualistic interpretation that we've ever had in the history of the country. So
Okay.
I disagree completely with that interpretation. That is the result of Mitch McConnell packing the
Okay.
courts federally and Supreme Court since the 80s. So
Okay.
somebody can believe that the Easter Bunny is their particular Jesus. People believing things doesn't mean anything to me. That means
Right.
that
For
someone
any of
believes
us,
something.
yourself included. Right.
Yeah,
So, right. For all of us.
believing something is a personal right, but it doesn't have anything to do with the Constitution, and it doesn't have anything to do with the justice system, right?
Not-
So Bork was, the first Supreme Court justice where there was a problem was Bork in the 80s, right? You're familiar with Bork.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'd have to get
Okay,
a
well, it's
refresh,
important.
but
You should know
okay.
this because
Yeah.
the whole contentious Supreme Court thing
Mhm.
and the whole packing of the courts by Mitch McConnell
Yeah.
started with Bork. So that was the Federalist Society when the Federalist Society was a college campus based right leaning think tank. Back then,
Mhm.
coming out of the New Deal, coming out of the civil rights movement, what you had on college campuses as an alternative idea was on the right side.
Okay.
So the left side was already prominent in culture. So the right side was what college campus think tanks came up with. which was the Federalist Society.
I hear you.
So Bork was tried. Reagan tried to put Bork on the Supreme Court, and it was the first Supreme Court nomination where people flipped out. You had tens of thousands of protesters, mostly women, and that Federalist Society now has 4 to 6 people on the court, and the federal courts across the country are full of people who think that same way. That's Leonard Leo, that's Mitch McConnell working together over 40 years. So if you combine that effort in the courts to move the courts to the right since the end of civil rights and the end of the New Deal, if you combine that movement in the court system with the NRA and their PR push from the 70s, then yes, people are going to believe different things about the Second Amendment because
Yeah.
they've been told that those things are legally okay, and they've been told that they've been sold on that idea through PR from the NRA, and which is the gun lobby. So they're trying to sell guns.
Yes, and you know, a lot of the roots of the gun issue come from the Black Panthers, who felt like they were being, you know, harassed and killed by police in Oakland and things like that. And you know, Huey Newton, who was a you know, a constitutional lawyer, was like, hey, let's use the Second Amendment. You know, so there are roots in that as well. So when you say like you're someone who just follows the Constitution, I think that the Constitution is interpreted. So it's not just that you believe things, but you interpret things according to a lot of different things, your psychological tendency, your experiences, and stuff like that. But when the reason what I'm trying to do is find just like common ground with you, but also to understand that would you agree that to be a critical thinker, to be a serious thinker, that you have to not just fall into whatever the partisan line is? You agree with that, correct?
Well, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay. So when you say that you're, you know, a moderate and you kind of go with one side or the other, like what would be an area that you would be, and maybe you'll just label this a gotcha question, but it's truly not. I'm trying to understand that you're not ideologically possessed, because I think that people could assess this, and I don't want it to be inaccurate of you, is that you will just fall along the line of whatever is on the left end of politics, and whatever's on the right, you'll, even if it's someone you agree with, you'll attribute to some sort of negative intention or something along those lines. So there's some examples of things that you would
What
kind
have
of
I
be
said that
more
that falls into the line of the left? What this whole presumption on your part is like, I'm sorry, it's like talking to a child. It's like you haven't listened to anything I've said. You literally haven't heard anything I've said, or you've discounted it so completely. If I say to you, Will, let me say it one more time. I'm from a purple city. I've got
so high.
conservative and liberal, moderate and extreme friends and family my whole life.
Okay.
I grew up
Me
with
too.
my next door neighbor being liberal. My stepdad was conservative. At dinner every night growing up, there was debates, right and left.
I
I've been
understand.
doing this my whole life, twice as long as you've probably been alive. At no point
Okay. I mean,
do
I'm
I line,
41, but yeah.
at no point in my life did I ever say I'm a Democrat. At no point in my life did I ever say I'm a Republican.
Okay.
I
So
I have studied the Constitution, and then I observe the people who are running. I look at the larger social factors. I look at the influence of outside factors. I look at all those things, and I say, well, what's happening here? What's going on here? So your assumption that I'm in some sort of democratic orthodoxy is just you.
but
It's just you being intellectually
yeah,
lazy. Everything I've said is
Brian.
not that.
Brian.
Everything I've said is not that.
Okay, but
Everything I've said
Brian,
is not
I
that.
didn't assume that. I asked you a question. There's a
No, you
big
did.
difference.
No,
I asked you a
the
question
question assumed it. The basis of the
because
question
you
was the
haven't
assumption. The
because
basis of the question was the
you
assumption.
you haven't said anything that is aligned with more conservative thinking. So I wanted to give you the
Conservative
opportunity.
thinking in what decade? Conservative today is off the chart to the right. That's why the Lincoln Project, people that I often agree with, which I already said to you, were you listening? The Lincoln Project are former Republicans who are
Yes,
reasonable Republicans. And
that's an opinion that they're reasonable, right?
no, those are Republicans of the last
But
50 years.
but isn't that an opinion? That's a judgment on them that they're reasonable.
Okay.
That's not an
So
that's not an
is
objective statement.
is 2 plus 2 4?
Yes. The
Okay.
people that run the Lincoln Project is not as
Did
being
did
people.
did
Hold on, Brian.
Democrats?
Hold on,
No, no,
Brian,
no,
hold
no,
on.
no. Did
Brian,
Democrats
you're
used to
talking over
be?
me constantly, sir.
Okay, no,
Like
you
constantly.
just not. You're not letting me finish. I had a couple questions. I said 2 + 2. You said yes. Then I said, did Democrats used to be very different? Did Democrats used to be in favor of slavery? Yes or no?
The Democratic Party is more in line with slavery. Yes.
Not more in line. Southern Democrats were pro slavery. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So Democrats have changed. That's not opinion. Democrats have changed. Republicans in the last decade have also made a sea change of that way. Republicans who are reasonable moderates
But
have
Ryan,
gone to Lincoln Project thinking. Those people are now in the middle where you claim to be. You claim to be in the middle. I don't think you are. I think you're right in the middle, but you're claiming to be where the Lincoln Project is.
okay, no, I disagree with your assessment of the Lincoln Project. I think that when you say that 2 + 2 = 4, that objective truth, and you say that this person is reasonable for these reasons, I think those are very different. I think one is subjective and one is
No,
objective.
the
I think that's
second
a
thing I
very
said
different.
was, did Democrats shift over time? And you said yes. Democrats
Yeah,
today aren't
all,
Democrats who were the
all,
Southern pro-slavery Democrats. That's
all.
that's that's 2 + 2 = 4 in politics, Will. That's
Okay,
an objective shift
no,
of the party from one line of thinking to a different line of thinking. And the Republicans have also made that shift. I know this is difficult because it takes a minute for you to actually grasp the arc of the
that's
idea,
not what's happening.
but 2 + 2 = 4 was the start of saying Democrats have shifted dramatically, and now we're seeing Republicans shift dramatically.
Yeah, but that's not. You asked for my opinion on whether or not the Democrats shifted. You asked someone like Charlie Kirk, or you asked someone like Candace Owens, and they would say the Democrats are exactly the same. They just took it from a more objective, anti-black, pro-slavery movement to something that's more surreptitious in the more patronizing. There's different kinds of racism. There's racism like in Ohio, Pennsylvania, where I grew up, Indiana, where it's just like out right out there, hello, N-word type of like racism. But then you come to California, it's a different kind of racism. It's a very paternalistic, I'll take care of you type of racism, which is why Lyndon Johnson, who was a Democrat, there's a lot of belief about when he said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years or whatever he said. There's a
Right?
belief
Is it
that
is it
they are
1960?
there is a belief that they are still the party of racists, and I have a lot of black friends who are conservatives that still deeply believe that. That is still a subjective opinion. That is not like 2 + 2 = 4.
Okay, you have a lot of black friends who vote Republican. Is that what you're saying? Because it's like around 10%.
Yeah, many. Yeah, Justin's in here right now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's very. Yeah, I mean, many.
Okay,
Yes,
great. So
yes.
so that means that you don't have anything but a biased group of black friends, because if 10% of or 14% of black people vote Republican and those are a bunch of your friends, you've proven my point, which is you're on the right pretending you're in the middle. That's
No,
my premise. You're on the right pretending you're in the middle. What I'm
no.
saying about Republicans is that over the course of the last 50 years, Republicans were basically in a Reagan mindset. Low taxes, deregulation. This is what Republicans have been.
Okay.
Strong on defense, family values. Not the guy that grabs them by the pussy, not the serial rapist, not the 5 times bankrupt guy. It was people who were conservative financially,
Yeah.
good business people. So Trump is not in line with Republicans since Reagan, or really
Okay.
since the New Deal. That's an
Okay.
objective fact, Will. It's not a fucking opinion.
Okay.
And the Lincoln Project are people saying, hey, we want republicanism like it was over the last 50 years. That's what we consider to be republicanism.
Right. And I mean, I think Tulsi Gabbard would do something with the left, right? Like she would say, like the left, or RFK would say that they were representing where the Democratic Party was, and the Party moved as well. So I think that
No,
there's
the
those
Democratic
individuals from
Party,
both sides. Right.
that's a myth. At the
Okay.
moment, Will, the Democratic Party is a giant tent that has a broad coalition. Look, Biden just put forward a border bill that Republicans have wanted forever.
Okay.
So there are people in the Democratic coalition that would say, oh my God, that's fascism. What's he doing? He's horrible. I'm never going to vote for him, blah, blah, blah. And then there are the Republicans who are saying, oh no, we don't want it
So
anymore because we actually listen to Trump, who's not even part of this, but he wants to be president. So we're going to shoot down that border bill, which is exactly the stuff we've asked for years, because
yeah.
Trump told us he wants to run on the problem. That's the modern Democratic Party. You have an authoritarian cult of personality who's doing things that are anti-democratic, bad for the country, not doing anything with the border because Trump wants to run on the chaos. You can't come up with an example of Bill Clinton or Barack Obama having a position in the Democratic Party ever where they said, you know what, don't fix that shit, create chaos because I'm going to come in and save it. That's never happened before. Trump is a unique authoritarian figure, and the Republican Party has become a cult of personality driven by victimization feelings. And as you said, a fuck you to the system thing.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yes.
two
So,
plus two is four. Those are objectively true things.
where we got into this was just asking if there's some, like, what are some of your viewpoints that you have that are more conservative, but you don't have to answer that.
I
Just to wrap this up,
agree
I
with
think
a
there's,
lot of the things that the Lincoln Project agrees with. You know, those are moderately conservative things.
okay.
You know,
I think that you okay?
yeah, it's just a phone.
Okay. Yeah. I think at the core of it, just to wrap this up, so we can both get back to work, is I think that maybe a fundamental, what I'm getting from this, and maybe this isn't, you might not agree with this, but what I'm getting at this is a fundamental disagreement in what is objective versus subjective when it comes to understanding concepts. Because what you say seems very obvious to me that it's opinion based and it's more subjective based on your analysis, and it's not 2 + 2 = 4. And you think I'm ignorant because these analyses about politics are as concrete as 2 + 2 = 4. Would that accurately represent?
Again, Democrats used to be very different than they are today. Yes or no? Southern Democrats, pro-slavery, are a very different Democratic Party than they are today. Yes or no
In
question?
my opinion is that yes,
No,
but that is not an
no,
objective
Will,
fact is
it's
my
not your
point.
opinion. It's not your opinion. It's the
I
truth.
believe it is.
It's it's
I,
it's
so
not your opinion.
okay,
Southern
Brian.
Democrats,
Brian. So what I'm trying
Southern.
to, Brian,
Look.
I
Are there
understand.
history books, Will? Are the history books full of opinion? Southern Democrats.
Yes.
Yeah, to some extent,
There's facts,
of course.
inferences, and judgments in a history book. There's
Yeah,
facts,
but
inferences, and judgments. So
sure.
yes, history books are full of opinion. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It's a bad example. But Southern Democrats used to be pro-slavery. Now Democrats are a very different party. That's an objective fact.
But it's what I'm telling you is that I disagree with the concept of objectivity on that, because there are many people, okay, who view the Democratic Party as the party of the racists who actually believe that they want to keep minorities down. They believe that, and there's
Sure,
evidence that they can point to believe that,
a lot
but
of children
that is
believe in
their
Santa
opinion.
Claus. It doesn't make it real,
But it makes it their opinion,
of course.
and their opinion based on evidence. And I was just
No,
trying
no,
to
it's
see
not
if
their
we could.
opinion based on evidence. It's their opinion based on feelings. They have a feeling and they have confirmation bias, which proves their feeling, which is not critical thinking. It's confirmation bias. The Democratic Party was not. The Democratic Party was in favor of slavery. Is anyone name anyone in the Democratic Party today who is in favor of slavery? Name one person.
Like American, like chattel slavery, like black people working in like in camps. I mean, I
Yes,
don't.
the word slavery. It's an
Well,
objective word, Will. It's not a subjective word.
it absolutely, yes, it is, because you
No,
could
you're
have
talking
people
in
working.
metaphor. You're talking in metaphor.
No,
Metaphor is important. If it's a
Pe-
spiritual conversation, sure.
no,
But slavery in this country is a specific thing, is it not?
it is not. If there's
American
someone,
slavery is a thing. Chattel
yes,
slavery, chattel slavery is a thing, is it not?
chattel slavery of Africans is, but so is Asian immigrants who get brought over here in shipping containers and working in massage parlors and kitchens at restaurants without pay or with very little pay is also slavery. That's what I'm bringing up. That there's a lot of
Okay,
things that are
and so you
considered
think
slavery.
you think Democrats today are in favor of what you just said? Asians coming over and working kitchen. Do you think Democrats are in favor of that?
I don't think Democrats or Republicans are. I think you could make an argument that Democrats are for immigrants coming over here and working for low wages. That's one of the motivations for less border control sometimes. But I just what I'm trying to find with you, Brian,
Wait,
is
wait,
some
wait,
sort of like
hold
element
on, hold
of
on.
what I'm trying to
What
find here.
what
Look,
what
everything I'm going to say, you're gonna point out is super dumb and unevolved and ignorant and manipulative and everything like that.
why
So
do you
I
think
understand.
it's bad that people want to come in the country and work? Do you have friends who are going to do farming in California? Do you have
Yeah,
friends that are going to do the jobs in Florida when DeSantis shut down immigrants from working in those jobs in construction, et cetera, and the economy went to shit in Florida? Where are your white or black or brown friends who are already here, who are going to do those jobs? Why are you opposed to having new Americans who don't look like you, Will? What's your problem with brown people?
that's funny. Just because I married a brown immigrant, that's why it's funny.
Well, but what? So why not more? Did you have the only good one? Why not more?
um, because the idea that if you're going an immigration issue, it's because I just want to. We should have a process, a legal process for getting people into this
Of
country.
course we
That's not
should.
something.
And
So
Biden just put forward
cool.
the idea, and Trump shut it down. An unelected candidate for president, a former president,
Okay.
shut down the
Cool.
process. Everything
Yeah.
Republicans wanted, he
Good.
shut it down.
Yeah, I don't like that. So what I
So we
was
have
trying to
something in
do.
common.
Absolutely. So what I was trying to point out is this is something that I felt like I walked away from this conversation more evolved in my thinking. I think that there's a real difference in the way that individuals see objective versus subjective understanding of things, and we're going to disagree on that, and that's fine. We
Well,
can
look,
disagree. Hopefully, we can disagree better with less like name calling and personal attacks and stuff like that. But that's something that I walked away. Is there something that you walked away evolving your thinking on, whether it's from me or from the people who are watching or anything like that?
I think the people who are watching are kind of sad. You know,
Okay.
there's a lot of the state of the world is like. I love the fact that young people are now really interested in social justice issues
Yeah.
and politics more than they are in making money. You know, that's
Cool.
a change over the last 20 years in the country.
Good.
And me and my friends 20 years ago, that's where we were. And so I'm happy to see people who are really interested in those things. More interested, it would seem, than in making money, which is
All right.
also kind of sad because it's hard to make money in an economy dominated by corporations. And the state of the economy is really tough for younger people. And I'm really empathetic.
I'm with you on that. Another place where we agree
Yeah,
for
it's
sure against corporate
right.
greed for sure.
But
But
the
is there any
reason,
way?
but the reason we have corporate greed is why it's because of deregulation thinking. And where does deregulation thinking come from? It doesn't come from Democrats. It comes from Republican thinking. Now, Bill Clinton, who in my opinion was right of center, Clinton and Gingrich opened trade to China. That's a huge problem for Red County America.
Yep.
Clinton and Gingrich repealed Glass-Steagall. That
Mhm.
led to the recession near depression 10 years later, 2007-8. So deregulation thinking, which goes back to the robber barons in the late 1800s who made corporations individuals in law, as you well know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Individuals, corporations as individuals in law was around since the 1890s, but since Reagan on, Republicans and Clinton, who was right of center slightly, have really pushed our whole world towards the economic right. And that has really hurt young people. And so it's hurt all of us. I mean, you ask people how they feel about the economy today, even though the economic numbers are all through the roof, and Biden by the numbers has done an incredible job. People don't feel good about the economy today. Why is that? Because the mandate of our culture is constant pressure from corporations to squeeze every dollar out of every person they can because they exist purely for spreadsheet profit. There's
Yeah.
no ethical compass on any
Sure.
corporation, as you well know.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
you well
I'm with you.
know.
I wouldn't say that that's a thing just of the Republicans. That's where we might
Well,
disagree. But I'm with you
no, but
on corporate.
deregulation.
So
Will, come on? Do you
yeah.
want me to find you the
No.
recent votes on this? Republicans are always deregulating and always lowering taxes for the rich. It's the two things they've done since the
Yeah.
80s: deregulate and cut taxes every
I,
time.
I hear you. So just going back to my question, is there somewhere that you've evolved your thinking on? Because I just mentioned people in the comment section. You said that they're what I don't want to misrepresent what you
Well,
said,
there's
but
a
you feel sad
lot
for
of
them.
petty gotcha stuff,
Yeah,
but
you feel
not.
sad for them. So, but is there something that you evolved your thinking on from this conversation? Did you come out of this more informed in a way that will help you to be a more critical thinker? I guess would be a good way for me to try and wrap this up.
I'm still waiting to learn something. You're exactly the way that I thought you were,
Okay.
and the I guess it's a little worse because you're not willing to put your foot down because you're trying. Your notion of open-mindedness is to sort of disregard reality. It's
Mm.
sort of like somebody who took a lot of LSD. Did you ever take any LSD?
No, I've never taken LSD.
Mushrooms, LSD, that kind of thing.
I, regardless,
How about mushrooms? Mushrooms.
look, Brian, like
So
this
you did
is
take mushrooms. Okay. So you did take mushrooms. So the thing about taking mushrooms or LSD, the thing it does to the brain is it makes it difficult to sort of pin down this is real versus everything's an
is
opinion.
that
You're sort of
is that from the
preferring
work
to
of
live
Robin
in
Carhart
everything's
Harris?
an opinion. What's
Is
that?
that from? Did you make that analysis from like the work of Robin Carhart Harris or Carl Hart or what? Like any of these people who study psilocybin mushrooms extensively? Is that where you got that analysis from?
A lifetime of different reasons for my
Okay.
analysis. This, but the
So
subjectivity of, like you're so reluctant to say Republicans in the last decade since the Tea Party and since Trump have really moved away from traditional Republicans over the last 50 years. The fact that you're so unwilling to uh, basically admit to a very obvious fact within our politics in this country it's extra frustrating.
okay.
You're sort of priding yourself on the notion of I'm open minded, but to an extreme where you're not actually seeing a thing that's happened, a very strong movement where Republicans were basically this one thing since Reagan, and then they become something very different.
Mm.
They become a victimization based cult of personality around a guy who is a danger to society. That is a clear 2 + 2 = 4 to me, and the fact that you don't want to see it that way, it makes this kind of a worse conversation for me.
Okay. All right. Well, then, then I walked away with a better understanding, I think, of the way that certain people, maybe people who think along the lines of you, think. That's gonna serve me. I really appreciate you coming on here. I hope that in the future, uh, that there could be a way to convey your ideas in a less insulting manner. But of course, it's a free country, and the freedom of speech allows us to be cruel with that speech or
Well,
kind with that speech. It allows us
I, I,
to call.
I think you've been very insulting at times.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, it
the
was,
whole notion of insulting. The whole
but it
notion of
wasn't intentional.
insulting isn't it? Let's use your logic. Isn't insulting subjective?
Offense is absolutely subjective. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yes, yeah. So if you, I can tell you, with complete sincerity, I tried very hard not to personally attack you. I tried very hard not to insult you. That's why I've never called you names or anything like that. And that you couldn't say for yourself. So there is a way in which you interact that is more intentionally cutting. It is more intentionally trying to insult me and personally attack me, where I haven't done that to you. But like Mark Twain said, if someone tries to offend you and you're offended, you're a fool. Someone tries not to offend you and you're offended, you're an even bigger fool. So, I mean, if you didn't try to insult me and I took, and I felt like you were, then I'm a bigger fool. Because if you were just trying to be, actually just trying to be, kind or gracious in the way you were conveying, and it didn't come across to me, then that's me being a fool, I suppose.
Is this conversation about two people trying to be kind and gracious? Was that the goal of the conversation?
It was trying to better understand each other through my three pillars
Okay.
of intellectual humility, genuine curiosity, and grace,
Okay.
which I
So
think I emailed you about and I mentioned in the beginning.
your intention for the conversation was our intention?
I emailed you that prior.
Yes.
Yeah.
You emailed me your intention for the conversation.
Yeah. And you agreed to it,
Did I?
right?
Did I?
Well, you're here
Where did I agree to that?
because I said if you're okay with that, let's meet, and you said okay, and you showed up here.
I'm okay with your intention.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So then maybe you have a different intention, but if you didn't intend to personally attack me, then and I took it that
No,
way,
I'm not
then
personally attacking you. What
yeah,
I'm telling you is that,
fine.
from my perspective,
Yeah.
as someone who had a teacher who teaches what you teach,
Mhm.
I just don't think you're doing a great job of it
I hear
for
you.
the reasons that I'm trying to explain.
I hear you. And what I will tell you in closing, what I would tell you is the same thing I tell my students, what I tell everybody is if you don't like the way that I'm doing it, and I mean this with all sincerity, not in a patronizing way at all, but you should go do it better. Brian, you should have a political Instagram or something that
Again,
does makes the changes in the world.
that's a
Okay.
manipulative closing.
Of course.
I'm not here to do your
Okay.
job. You invited, again, look at what you do. That's a great example of what you do. You're very manipulative. It's like saying to someone, oh, if you don't like America, you should leave the country. Look, man, you invited me on here because you
Hmm.
thought it would be good for you to show your method with someone who disagrees with you. You said that people generally won't come on and talk to you.
Hmm.
And I said, yeah, I'll come on and talk to you. And I'm
Yeah.
saying the same thing to you here that I've said to you online, which is totally consistent, which is that
Okay.
I don't think you're as critical thinking as you are. What you call critical thinking is a lack of consenting to, like, for example, Democrats used to be pro slavery. Now they have a different take. You might still call that oppressive. Candace Owens might. Okay, we're going to quote Candace Owens. Great. We could talk about her if you like. If
No.
you think that's a credible person, um, everyone's going to have an opinion about everything. You can
Correct.
find a confirmation bias can find someone who has an opinion that will back up your opinion. That's the problem with the internet. We can find the information that supports our opinion. That's the inherent nature of the era that we're in. So you invited me on here to do this. I'm telling you the same thing here consistently that I've told you before.
Hmm.
That's the same thing. Now, if you turn that around and manipulate it to say, well, you should do it, you should go teach.
I never said
That's
you should.
no,
I
you
never said
just
you should.
said you dude, come on. Have a pair. You just made a very manipulative, condescending statement with a smile. To come across as kind, but
Mhm.
actually to be manipulative and cutting is actually worse than what I'm doing. I'm actually being honest with you. I think you have good intentions and you're not doing as good of a job at what you think you're doing as you could. I'm
Okay.
consistent about
I
that.
hear you. I
You're
hear you.
you're you're coming on here like, oh, I'm being kind, but then you invite me on, and then at the end you wrap it up with, well, your statement about I should do my own
No,
teaching or whatever. It's like, really?
no,
You
if you
invited me on your platform to bolster you. This doesn't bolster me in any way. I'm just answering your question because it's the responsible thing to do. You said, hey, if you're going to be critical of me on my page, you should be critical on with me in person.
absolutely, and I do appreciate you for doing that. And
Yeah,
again,
like
I'm not
here's the things. You're an ideologue, the other person, judge and jury and executioner. This is all projection from people, right?
sure.
If projection is one of the main ways that we all make
Of
ourselves dumb. And I work on projection and transference every day. We have to
course.
be able to see through those things, right? So I'm
Sure.
being consistent with you.
Okay.
What I would
I hear you.
ask of you is to not take that consistency that you invited me on here to do and at the end put a little bow on it that's a smart ass snarky fucking comment with a smile, because Will, that's not being kind, that's being manipulative, which is my
I hear
premise with you. You're extremely manipulative, and I have the
you.
same conclusion from that comment that I had coming on. Unfortunately, I actually
I
feel worse. I feel worse about you because
okay.
you're not willing to say Republicans for 40 years have been a certain way and it's shifted in the last 10 or 15 years. Come
Yes.
on. And
Yeah.
you're teaching politics to
Yes.
kids?
Yes. So the reason I brought that up is because everything I post, you comment a lot. You're very like active about trying to promote your ideas in politics. So I just said, like, if that's the case, because you see me very active on social media with politics and stuff like that.
I'm
So just
based on
offering
what?
the idea.
Based on your page? Based
Yeah,
on
that's
what?
all I can go by.
Okay.
That's all I can go by, right?
Okay. So
But
I'm not
like,
active on social media with politics. I just came across your page and I thought, okay, here's a guy who
but
thinks he's doing a great
yes.
job and it really is an
Yeah,
embarrassment.
but Brian, everything I post, you're the one of the first people, and you spend a considerable amount of time in
I
my
don't,
comment
Will.
section
I
every
don't.
post.
I don't spend
Okay.
much time at all. I have a very big life. You
Yes.
take up a very small portion of my day.
Okay. I hear you.
And frankly, if you don't want the comments, I don't have to post at all. I don't give a shit about your page. So you know how Instagram works. Once you make a post, once you follow,
Mhm.
once you like something, somehow your page came across mine, and then I ended up interacting. I don't spend a considerable amount of time at all. I disagree 100%.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
self-employed, so I have all day to work, be online, watch news, read things. I have all day to myself. You're a tiny speck of my day.
For sure. All I can go by is the interaction. The only reason I brought that up is because you seem to be very passionate about talking about politics. From my perspective, passionate about talking about politics on Instagram. So you probably have work to do. I have work to do as well. I don't know how productive this was, but I hope that it was at least modeling something that and I'm sure I could have done this a lot better. But I want to put this out there. It'll be on my feed, and people can share their thoughts and things like that. And for those of you who've been tuning in to listen, I extend to them as well humility, curiosity, grace. I think that's just again my opinion about how we should interact with each other best we can. Brian, I do truly appreciate you coming on and me. It's good to have these I do jujitsu. It's good to have good sparring partners to try and work out ideas. So I sincerely wish you the best. I appreciate your willingness to talk. And it did help me better understand people who think along the way that you do.
And how is it that I think? What conclusions have you drawn? Because I'm pretty sure you're a guy that can't draw conclusions about the Republican Party shifting, but now you're drawing conclusions about me. So I'm interested. What are those conclusions?
That might be. I do need to go though. Okay,
Oh,
because this will just keep going, and I've tried to answer all of your questions and stuff like that.
no,
But
you
we
didn't.
do need to go.
You didn't answer all my questions. You're not willing to say that objectively Republicans have shifted, but you just said that objectively you have conclusions. So that I find that to be hypocrisy. Again,
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
hypocrisy is kind of what I see all the time with you.
That's very clear. I understand that's your perspective. I do. I understand that. But thank you guys for listening, and this will be on my feed. And Brian, you feel free to comment, or people might say something, and then hopefully they'll be kind to you. But I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. But then you can interact on there. And this was a little bit of what I think is a one way to attempt to have a productive dialogue. Whether or not we had it, I don't know. Some you win some, you lose some. But regardless, I sincerely do wish you the best, Brian. I do.
Well, I wish you the best.
All right.
That's why we're here.
Okay. All right, man. All right. Well, have a great weekend, Brian. Maybe I'll talk to you in the future sometime. All right. Bye-bye.